We have some more of the most unpredictable Reddit stories, so I have no titles to go off of. We are gonna have no idea what these stories are going to be about and the plot twists that are to come, which is really exciting for me. First story, I, 20 female, work at a market stall as a wine saleswoman on the weekends. I've been working there for a few months, over a year. I always do my best to be friendly to stall holders and the staff that set up and maintain the market. To be friendly to the staff, I greet them, I give them discounts on my wines, and sometimes I have casual conversations. Recently, a work colleague, Steve, between 40 to 50 male, who sets up and maintains the markets, is recently asking suspicious questions. In the past, we have had friendly and casual conversations, for example, about pets and movies. Now he's asking questions like, have you been going to the gym? It looks like you lost weight. Have you been going on dates? My gut is telling me that I need to do something because this isn't friendly and it's getting creepy. I want to know what precautions to take to keep myself safe. I'm not sure what type of evidence to collect or anything, and also, he is authorized to look at security cameras. I'm not sure what I did that could lead him on, besides from me just being friendly. I haven't told anyone because I don't want to get Steve in trouble. If he had no ill intentions, or get myself in trouble, what should I do? I feel like you always gotta trust your gut on this. I don't know if I ever talked about this. I worked in a work environment where there was a male employee older than me who was inappropriate, and I had to go to someone. He ended up getting fired for it. But I did the same thing for a while. I questioned, like, is that creepy or is it just friendly? Like, you really do start to question because you don't want to accuse anyone of anything. But anyways, it got to a point where there was absolutely no denying that there was stuff going on. We have an update, and it was almost 2 years later. I am now 22. After that post, he then made a statement saying, I'm learning chiropractic and I want to try it on you. Also, he was a handyman at the markets. Here is the distressing news. I just found out today that he was a convicted serial SA'er, can't say the words, who spent 10 years in jail and was released in 2021. And that's why you always trust your gut. I started working late of 2022. He pleaded guilty to 31 different offenses. The worst part is the owner of the markets knew. The market is supposed to be a family-friendly tourism place. When the tenants found out and confronted him, the owner came to his defense, threatening to evict them from their stall. The good news is that he has quit his job. From your advice after the post, I was more blunt and less friendly than I would be towards other colleagues. I also told my dad, who is the owner of the wine stall, who told me not to worry about it. I didn't report, and glad I didn't know, knowing the owner wouldn't have helped me at all anyways. The thing is, as soon as I found out, I told Dad about it, and it turns out he knew and didn't want me to worry? Why are we ignoring that? What's happening?
What do you mean?
I'm upset because I should have known, but recently he had 2 major operations this month and is not doing so well at the moment. I feel scared yet vindicated. I got worried that I was overanalyzing the comments and questions from Steve, or wondering if the reason was me being too friendly. Turns out it's because he was being a creep. I'm glad he's not working, but will be anxious of the possibility of meeting him again. This ain't right. Wanna know what's funny about my situation? Not funny at all. I'm just saying coincidence to this story. Once I started reporting, I found out that there were reports from other women and they still made that man my partner. I worked alone with this man, I should add. And they had other reports that were ignored from someone. So anyway, some of the management was very upset after finding out that there were reports made before me. So stuff like this happens. Why are we ignoring it? We have another update though, a final update. I asked the market manager and another handyman some questions, like whether any of the other tenants had reported him saying inappropriate things to them, and they all said no. The manager pointed out that I should have reported it to her. She would have told Steve not to do that, as she deals with sexual harassment among tenants all the time. She did make an example of a woman reporting that a man asked if she was cold wearing shorts and made him apologize, but the manager told me in a tone that insisted the women reporting was overreacting. She said that Steve was reformed, meaning he was allowed to be among the public. To be honest, I'm glad I didn't report it because the very reason I didn't was that I didn't want the attention drawn to me. I didn't feel comfortable with the tone that she was using on me, and also Steve wasn't just some other tenant. He was a handyman, and one of his jobs was providing security. The other handyman, I will call Bob, was good though and talked to me in a kind tone. He also banned a creepy old customer a while back. From the response, I made a folio on our interactions as detailed as possible to help me remember and to communicate. I forgot to mention this in the last post. One of the main reasons I was terrified about Steve was because he wrote objectifying notes about his targets and victims according to the news articles. I was scared that he was targeting me with similar intentions from the comments and questions he made towards me. After work, I went to the police station to make a report on the sexual harassment at work. I asked my mom to accompany me for emotional support as I was anxious. The police officer did a great job of telling me what I can do. He told me to get an app that I can provide and report intel for offices to any crime or suspicious activity. He gave me instructions that if I come across Steve again, I should firmly tell him that I'm not going to engage in conversations, and if he persists, that I can obtain a restraining order. Also, I got pepper spray only if I needed to. Even though everything is still fresh and I feel startled, I do have some closure. Because his reputation is destroyed, I don't think I will see him around again. Hopefully. Honestly, I'm happy to see that that's the final update because it gives me some hope that nothing else happened again and you had no reason to update. I don't understand how that can just be so ignored. That's terrifying. Next story. I, male 37, have always been close to my sister, female 35. We talk regularly, and during one such conversation, she told me she's been feeling really depressed and overwhelmed lately. As we were talking, I could tell that she was holding back tears, so I decided to do something nice for her. I contacted a local florist and I put in an order for some flowers. That's so sweet. That is something my little brother would do. I say little. He's 25. Little compared to me. I had them delivered to my sister's place of employment with a note reading, "Thinking of you." A few hours later, the florist called me up and told me a man has been calling them nonstop and demanding that they tell him who sent his wife flowers. They tried to explain that it was against their policy to reveal that information, but the man would not take no for an answer. Apparently, he became so aggressive and threatening over the phone, the shop called me up and asked my permission to reveal the name of the sender to this man. The man being my brother-in-law. Oh my God, he thinks that his wife is having an affair. Thinking of you flowers, I get it. It does look bad. It turns out my sister had called her husband and thanked him for the flowers. He told her he hadn't sent any flowers and accused her of having an affair. He believed her affair partner had sent them to her, which is why he called the florist like a lunatic, demanding names. Now my sister is more depressed than ever, and she's been fighting with my brother-in-law ever since. My friends think that I should have included my name on the card. Had I done that, they say, this blow up would have never happened. I mean, yeah. I always put my name on the card when I send flowers. I say it's my brother-in-law to blame, as he was the one who can't control his temper. So Reddit, was I the a-hole? No, you did a nice thing and you just thought, since you guys had that conversation, maybe she would just know it was from you. Of course you're not gonna think it's like gonna cause a rift in their marriage. Edit. I totally forgot to explain that I gave the florist permission to tell my brother-in-law that it was me. So he knows, my sister knows, everyone knows at this point. Final update. Here's hoping that things have settled down. I feel like you can, once you know it was him, like why are we still fighting, right? I acknowledge that my momentarily lapse of judgment has wrought much instability. Your concern for my sister's well-being truly touched my heart. I would, however, like to take this time to explain that it was not my intention to foul up my sister's marriage by way of my anonymous gift, nor have I ever harbored any incestuous feelings towards my sister. Were people saying that? Now on to the update. You guys were right. It turns out her marriage has been on the decline for a long while now, and her depression is largely the result of that. My sister is now getting a divorce. I feel like they were definitely headed in that direction, but my actions probably sped things up. My brother-in-law has moved out and in with another woman. In talking with my sister, she explained that he was always very verbally abusive with an explosive temper, as we saw on the phone call. He's thrown things and punched through walls, but never physically harmed her, she says. All in all, my sister's disappointed at the failure of her marriage, but seems cautiously optimistic. Well, I didn't expect that. I really thought it was just gonna be a fight, and once he found out it was you, all was good again. So crazy. We got more drama, but I need a sip of water, and so do you. This is your reminder. I don't care what you drink. Do whatever you want. Some of you cheers me with wine, coffee, whatever, but drink your water. Cheers. You're gonna be happy. Guess what? The forum is officially open again. If you want to submit a story to my channel, now is the time. It will remain open for the next 100 responses, so get your stories in. Remember, there is censorship and policies on these channels, so if it is a certain topic, I might not be able to read it, so keep that in mind, but it is linked in the video description of every single video. Next story. I wasn't really sure if this would be a good idea, but I could really use some unbiased insight due to the massive implications this situation carries. Sounds like fun. So here's the deal. A couple weeks back, I got a call from an old friend of my brother's out of the blue. For some added context, I am very familiar with him and I know his character quite well. And while he's not always been an upstanding guy, he values brutal honesty and has no reason at all to fabricate this. He explains to me that a few days back, my brother's wife, who he apparently had blocked from years earlier for a similar reason, had texted him very clearly looking for some company, if you know what I mean. There was never any overt language, but it was incredibly obvious that there was a sexual desire there. Normally, this could be something that would be a little easier to swallow, but she had apparently driven to his house looking for him. He explained to me that he wasn't home at the time and demanded that she leave, which she refused to do at first, but after he threatened police intervention, she relented. Here's where things get complicated. She has cheated on my brother before. Once, before they got married, they broke up for a short while, but eventually reconciled. I have continued to harbor reservations towards her since then, as I remember how miserable and angry my brother was during that period of time. And now perhaps the biggest complication of all, they have a child together. So I'm asking myself why she would ever think this was a good idea now of all times. But I have seen the dark side of her. She's manipulative, egotistical, and narcissistic. I don't mean to use such strong words, but giving the most detail possible in hopes that I can get the best feedback. The friend has also attempted to reach out to my brother so he can be the one to tell him, but in an unrelated conversation with my brother, he alluded to the fact that he did try reaching out to him once, but hasn't heard anything since. I know this contradicts what I've been told since he's tried a few times since, which leads me to believe that my wife is sneaking onto my brother's phone and then deleting his messages in an effort to cut off contact with my brother. Yeah, if she saw the messages come in from him, she'd be like, delete, delete, delete. Sneaky. Now at this point, I should probably wrap this up so I don't lose anyone's interest. In my opinion, my brother deserves to know the truth because this is his life and his family on the line. I know that I'll never be able to look at his wife the same either way. My wife, who is the other person who knows, since she was with me when the friend called to tell me, also believes that he should know the truth. But if I tell him, I will be a homewrecker and start an incredible amount of drama within my family. You're not the homewrecker. She's a homewrecker. She's wrecking her own home. I would also be fracturing the relationship between my nephew's mother and father, and he doesn't deserve to experience that. He didn't ask for any of this. But if I withheld this, I would have to spend the rest of my life with a horrible secret and a terrible burden and a terrible guilt of not being honest with my brother. So Reddit, I could use some outside opinions. Would I be the a-hole for exposing my brother's wife attempted infidelity? I get that that's a tricky position to be in and a very difficult one. I just feel like everyone deserves to know the truth, no matter what. Oh, even if it's the hard truth, wouldn't you want to know other than not knowing?
I got to know!
Sucks either way though. Final update. We'll see how this played out. After giving some time for the friend to try to reach out, which I later found out he wasn't able to due to some serious sudden health concerns, I did break the news to my brother. He took it about as well as anyone would have, angry, confused, sad. He also remembers that very night in question and already had suspicions that something had happened since she didn't give him a sensible response as to where she had been. Oh, you know, just driving over to your friend's house to knock boots, kick boots, what's the word? Knocking boots? Having sex. Let's just say it. Y'all know what I mean. He thanked me for telling him the truth and said he was going to wait a few days to figure out what he wanted to say before confronting his wife. He did so last night, and while she of course tried to deny it at first, but thanks to the messages that I shared with him, he was able to get her to come clean. It seemed like she showed no remorse or guilt and gave a stupid reason as to why she did it, saying, "It's because I'm dumb. I don't know about you, but that is not a valid excuse." He ended up leaving the house for a few hours to cool off and process everything. I am really not sure what he's going to do. He's afraid of divorce due to having a child with her, owning a home, and the price of an attorney. It does seem like he knows that this is how this is inevitably going to end, but I'm not sure right now if he will have the courage and self-belief to go through with it. Oh, but imagine she already cheated before you got married. Now you're married and she's attempted to cheat again. What you know of, she could already have cheated again and you wouldn't know. How do you possibly stay in that? You would never be able to trust them, ever. Living and staying in a relationship with no trust is such a mind. You know, I don't know. I've been there. Brutal. You're always anxious. You're always anxious and wondering what that person's doing. It's the worst feeling in the world. Next story. So during my wedding reception, we were doing all of the usual wedding games. Eventually, I was told it was time to do the garter removal. As everyone gathered around us in the middle of the dance floor, my wife was sitting in a chair and my friends brought out a blindfold and told me I would be doing the garter removal blindfolded. I should have been suspicious of their grins, but I had had some drinks and I wasn't suspecting anything. So I put it on and I tried to be a good sport about it, as everyone seemed like they were having a good time, myself included. As soon as I was blindfolded, however, my wife slipped out of the chair and was replaced by one of the groomsmen. He's a friend of the family that I've grown up with, but I would not say we're close. Now, I literally cannot stand him, although he's not a bad guy, other than my anger at this prank. Sitting in the chair in place of my wife, my groomsman was in shorts with the garter around his thigh. My wife stood behind him and was talking to me as they walked me over to keep me fooled into thinking that it was her. On their instructions, I got down on my knees and began reaching for what I thought was my wife's legs. Once I found the leg, I found the garter and began pulling it down. But at that moment, I heard my wife saying, "With your mouth, with your mouth." So I leaned forward and I grabbed the garter belt into my mouth to the shrieks and applause of the crowd. With the garter in my teeth, I pulled it down his leg, and then my wife actually came around to help me get it over his shoe because it got stuck. Once I had the garter, they told me to stand up and take off my blindfold. When I did, I was smiling because I thought I had been a good sport and everyone was just laughing so hard, and it seemed like everyone was having a great time. But when I took off the blindfold, everyone burst out into louder laughter. For a moment, the entire energy of everyone at the wedding was focused on nothing besides laughing at me being the sole butt of the joke. I felt awful. I was furious. I wanted to say and do a million different things, but I didn't. For some reason, I just felt like pretending it wasn't a big deal was the best defense. That showing anger would be confirming how badly I had just been humiliated for their delight, and that would have made my humiliation all the worse. So I sucked it up and I walked through the rest of the wedding while doing my best to keep a smile on my face. My wife could tell that I was stunned, but she kept on going too. She definitely had no idea how badly I was taking it. Everyone was standing around us and we couldn't talk openly about how I felt, at least not without ruining everything, and I didn't know whether I wanted to go there after all the effort and money was put into this wedding. I'm curious if you guys would be mad at that. Let's say even roles reverse, like whatever, some kind of wedding prank like that. If you're the groom, you got to do that. Would you be mad at this prank, or would you genuinely think it's just as funny and hysterical? And I kept sucking it up the next day at brunch and for most of the next week through most of our honeymoon. At some point, I told myself that my wife didn't mean to hurt me and there was no reason to ruin her wedding memories by telling her that my experience had been ruined. But then at the end of the honeymoon, I had a few drinks and I just couldn't help it. And once I started talking to her about it, I just went off. I told her it was trashy, that it hurt, if not destroyed my trust and sense of intimacy towards her. I was harsh, to be honest, and I got carried away. At first, apologizing a bit, she got upset and left me sitting out there. I think I just kept going because I felt hurt and I wanted maybe to make her feel bad as well, to be honest. Since then, it has been a difficult subject. I have told her I don't want to hear about the wedding. I don't want to write thank you notes, look at pictures. If it was tomorrow, I wouldn't make plans to celebrate our anniversary. My wife and I have a lot of strengths in our relationship, but I just can't stop thinking about this and the feeling when I took off the blindfold. I literally cannot stop my mind from replaying it over and over, and I get mad every time. Damn, he's real mad. And perhaps the worst part of it all is that it was all recorded. Oh boy. We had a professional photographer shooting a video, and in the video, I see at least 4 other people recording it on their phones. Watching the video, I find myself looking at the laughing faces of family and friends in the video, and there's a part of me that I'd never act on that wants nothing more than to punch them all in their faces. The fact that I know these videos are out there makes it feel like it's constantly happening to me. My wife says that she's sorry, that she thought I would take it better and laugh it off, and that I need to move on. I think maybe I am the a-hole. No good is coming from obsessing over this, but I literally cannot let it go. I find myself coming up with reasons to be angry. I tell myself sometimes it was assault because I was tricked into putting my mouth on another man's leg without my consent. But I think that's just rationalizing my anger. I don't know. Wow, real mad. Okay, want to know how you guys would feel if you were put in this situation. We do have a final update though. It came 2.5 months later. This is the wife. The wife has entered the chat. She is giving the update. Okay, this is interesting. If you know us and what this is about, please know we are very embarrassed about this. We took it down, but it has been shared so many times, it just keeps trickling on, so I'm writing this for both of us. This is the last thing we want to say about this. My husband deeply regrets some of the language he used. He intended to write anonymously and was letting out unfiltered emotions. Abraham Lincoln said, "Write an angry letter and tear it up." My husband made the mistake of hitting the post, assuming this was harmless venting, and now he regrets it. We've reached out to and we are on good terms with everyone involved. Everything is fine. As regards to the wedding, I'm the only one who messed up here. Our planner gave us options. I watched the videos. I thought it was funny. I messed up. This isn't my opinion, it's a fact. I messed up because it wasn't funny to the only person who mattered to me. I want people to understand both of our perspectives because no one here is an a-hole. What my husband didn't make clear is that he was an absolute sweetheart at the wedding and afterwards. Overall, our honeymoon was amazing, and he doesn't mention at all that he only got mad at the end because I was teasing him about it. And I was only teasing him because I had no idea that he was even upset about it. Having said all of that, on my own behalf, of course I thought he would think that it was funny. He has a great sense of humor. We joke around a lot and we always will. This just hits different and sometimes that happens. I feel like an idiot taking this risk at our wedding. I didn't exactly tell him to get over it. I couldn't talk about it anymore when it was first brought up because I love my husband and I was upset to hear him get so angry, probably in large part because he never gets angry like that. Afterwards, we decided to wait and talk about it until we could do so calmly. At the same time, we did need him to get over it to move forward. We can't even mention the wedding or anniversary again or live with anger. To the casual eye, it looks like this was a well-received prank in 100 different videos. I thought it would go over well, and so did everyone else. Bottom line is, this was unfortunate and completely unnecessary, but you live, you learn, we're doing great, and this has been blown way out of proportion. section. On the bright side, how many couples can say their weddings were covered by the New York Post? We are happily moving on. And we have a link here to the New York Post. My wife pulled a humiliating prank at our wedding. Now I want to punch everyone in the face. And this was August 4th, 2025, that this New York Post probably saw his Reddit story and wrote a whole article about it. I do see here that the Reddit post has been removed, but somehow it hasn't because it ended up here. So, oops. All right, y'all, let me know your thoughts. I will see you in the comment section to discuss the chaos we just read. Stay classy out there, stay sassy. Bye.